Let's discuss. Republican Congressman Leonard Lance of New Jersey is here with us in the flesh. Nice to have you here and not remotely somewhere. So regardless of what what Congress does, what the president may do very shortly is threatening about 5 to 6 million Americans, and that is if he pulls these subsidies from insurance companies that are part of Obamacare, they actually go to making health insurance somewhat affordable for 5 to 6 million Americans. He's threatened to do that. He's threatened to pull the funding away from you guys in Congress as well. What would you do if the president makes that choice?
I think we should fund that through the appropriations process, and I didn't like the fact in the Obama administration it was not done through the appropriations process.
Which got it caught up in the courts.
And that is being litigated in the courts, and I'm a member of the first branch of government, Article 1, and I think this involves the appropriations process, and we should appropriate them.
Discussion about whether or not Republicans should move on, go on to tax policy, go on to something else, or, dig in again and try to fix health care right now. Where are you?
I think we can do both. I want to move to tax reform, and I think in September we should move to tax reform, John. However, I'm a member of what's known as the Problem Solvers Caucus, and we have put out a plan regarding the individual market. It's not a complete plan, but I hope that we examine that, and it's completely bipartisan in the House of Representatives.
And it does, by the way, include these subsidies we were just talking about right there, yes, which is significant.
So I'm sure you read the front page of the Washington Post this morning and the story that the president himself dictated on Air Force One this completely misleading statement about that meeting that his son Don Jr. had with the Russian attorney. Your response to that, troublesome to you? If so, to what level?
I was the first Republican on Capitol Hill to call for Jeff Sessions to recuse himself regarding the Russian matter, and this is now being investigated by two very competent committees in Congress. I'm sure that we will get to the bottom of all this.
Yeah, but isn't that, wait, Jeff Flake just called out those kind of answers in his op-ed today, as you know. He said that sort of as Republicans not calling out the president on things that you don't agree with cannot continue. He said he's done it. So how do you feel personally about the president dictating what we now know from this reporting that the White House has not countered is misleading to the American people?
I try, Poppy, to lead by example, and I always try to be truthful with the press.
So you wouldn't do it?
I don't think I would do it, no.
Poppy brought up the Jeff Flake piece that was in Politico today, part of an essay, and he's writing a whole book also, really, which seems to set up questions, as he has, a Republican senator has right now, about the Trump presidency. Let me just read you something that he writes. Too often we observe the unfolding drama along with the rest of the country passively realize that someone is us. And so that unnerving silence in the face of an erratic executive branch is an abdication, and those in positions of leadership bear particular responsibility. You were talking about your role in the first branch of government, as you put it. Do you think you and your fellow Republicans need to do more to stand up to this White House?
We should stand up where we think it's appropriate, and we should support the president where we think that's appropriate as well. And I'm comfortable in doing both, and I've indicated where I disagree with the president, and I've indicated where I agree with him. But certainly we are an independent and separate branch of government, and we have constitutional responsibilities. And for example, we passed overwhelmingly last week the sanctions bill against Russia and Iran and North Korea, and I hope and expect the president will be signing that, even though he indicated perhaps he would examine it. But I think Congress really stood up and indicated this is the policy that should exist here in the United States.
You say, quickly to wrap up, it's appropriate, we should stand up where appropriate and not where not appropriate. Where is it inappropriate for members of Congress to stand up?
I agree with the president on certain of his policies. For example, on tax reform, I think we should move forward on and other areas as well. I favored the appointment of Neil Gorsuch to the Supreme Court, and where appropriate, I will support the president, and where inappropriate, I will not.
Has this 6 months, because I guess we're, just short of 200 days in office for the president, has it gone like you thought it would?
I think that it's been a very challenging time. However, I do think that General Kelly will be excellent as Chief of Staff, so long as everyone in the White House can report to him. I think there can be only one Chief of Staff, and that should be General Kelly.
Think or hope?
I think that General Kelly will be successful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congressman, great to have you here with us. Really appreciate it. All right, just days after its latest missile test, North Korea engaging with the U.S.